My name is Adam Martin. I am the founder of FI Project. I'm a 5-time felon, and I know what it feels like to be released from jail or a treatment center or detox or a homeless shelter into nothing. And so the idea was like, could we do a better job by providing services in an F5 fashion, which was the function key on a keyboard, which was like refresh. So like every time we met someone, what would it look like if we treated them like none of that existed?
So F5 Project is a nonprofit organization. We help people who have addiction issues, homelessness, mental health, and ultimately try and give them a chance to change.
I had seen some trends happening with peer support where people with like real lived experience, they were going back to where they came from and they were helping people out of those situations. There's no better way to get over the stuff that happened to you in your past than to go and help people who are currently experiencing it.
So many times when I would, like Adam, I would say I was sober and I wasn't. You just go to these meetings because I was in trouble, and I had no intentions at 19 or 20 to get and stay sober for the rest of my life. Because what was I going to do then? Like when I got married, and aren't you supposed to get loaded on your wedding and and all these things that I thought were coming up, but. I surprisingly stayed there for all the wrong reasons. I stayed there because I found a boy to stalk, and so that's why I kept going to meetings. To be honest, I didn't go to meetings sober for probably.
She's married to that boy now. Just so everyone, she didn't go to jail or anything for stalking.
No, I actually married. That was his roommate I was stalking.
My gosh!
I married Matt and stalked his roommate. And
I never knew that. I always thought Matt was the story.
No.
Okay. We don't have to say who it is. Matt probably has him on his 4-step somewhere. So.
He was really fun too. Yeah. They're all great guys, but I think the surprise in getting into recovery was that it was not as life-altering and as terrible as I thought it was going to be. Because really, like my gangster cred took some hits. Going to AA, but the amount of fun and the fellowship was amazing. I had so many preconceived notions of what recovery is going to be. I thought it was a cult, but it's this cult that makes you be nice to your parents and go to work. You know what I mean? Like, okay. That's an okay one to be in. I thought the sponsorship thing was dumb. Okay. And then I realized my best thinking got me there. I wasn't like a rocket surgeon or anything fancy like that. That's a play on words, you saw that there. It was just, and there's a lot of people that there was people I sobered up with that one girl I sobered up with on the day I had 10 years of recovery, she overdosed and died. My husband's sister recently overdosed and died. It's just like a very real thing, this recovery. And I think when I always thought, well, I was so young, it was probably just a phase, but I would rather live the rest of my life sober and maybe be wrong on that aspect than live in the chaos of addiction and wonder why I can't get to the other side of the fence, So anyway, lots of things.
That's probably a really big surprise is that I'm still here. Yeah. Like all the friends, family, like I honestly never, I thought like literally that the best I was going to do was just like have a job I didn't like and probably be with someone I didn't enjoy. Okay. And then always have like some distant relationship with my kids. Like I could have wrote down all the things that I wanted. I could have wrote down all the things I thought I was going to end up getting, and both lists would have been completely wrong. Like my life is crazy different, and I think there's sometimes I'm beyond the whole like survivor kind of guilt or whatever, like, because I honestly believe that I put the work into, where I'm at today. But it doesn't, I still think about, even like 10 years ago when we were hearing about overdoses and deaths and stuff, like it was kind of almost indirect at the time. It was like we knew a person that knew a person. Now it's like, man, it used to be like 7 degrees of like Kevin Bacon for overdose, and now it's like family and like direct people, and it's like increasing the rates like 50% year over year, to the point last night when we were talking in treatment, like fentanyl is obviously the number one offender, and they're putting it in everything. A guy was telling me last night that he smoked weed, and they put fentanyl in it, and they didn't tell him.
Wow.
To the point where we don't even know if the dealers, like this low-level dealers, know until someone overdoses and dies or something like that, right? So it's just like, it's in everything. And they're like professionalized the industry, and they're pressing the pills, and they look just like the normal pills. And so like last night, everyone was just like, you know, a raise of hands of how many people have overdosed, and we got 20 people in there, and there's like 9 that have. Think about that, like 9 people in a room that had died and been brought back to life. You know what I mean? And it makes a really great argument for Narcan, that it, like, even if you know, are law enforcement and think it's dumb that you have to, you know, save addicts' lives and stuff because they purposely are doing drugs and whatever, but like it's keeping them alive long enough to get recovery and get their kids back and become citizens and stuff like that. So it's, you know, and then the fact is like, most people think it's a moral failing, but think about it. Like, if you died and then got brought back to life and then use again, that's not morals. That's literal, like you died and you're still wanting to use. You know what I mean? That's trauma. It's mental health. It's addiction. It's something in your body is just built different now. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's not a moral failing. That's a social and mental health, and that's a community health issue. And I guarantee you, like, if you're against Narcan, or you just have a bad conception of like addiction, or think it's a moral failing, wait until it's your kid. Yeah. I've seen more legislators and more law enforcement and more judges and more whoever change their mindset after it got to their house. And fentanyl is like the teenage, early 20s big killer. And it is not certain to any race or gender or anything. So it's just crazy right now. Super crazy.
That's frightening that when you said that someone might choose to not give someone Narcan based on, like, well, they pick to do drugs or whatever. It's that's frightening. Like, that should never be an option, because this is, at least I believe it's an illness, and I don't think that people, like Adam said, if you learned from, if you were like, oh, I've reached the bottom, now I need to change. I just don't think that there is a bottom. I think that there is just like, I can keep digging a hole forever. You know, you just get further and further removed from people until their heart can't stand to watch what you're doing, and I can't stand to break their heart anymore. So you just become not close to them. But
here's the thing, I don't know how real that is. If someone, you know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to say we're not going to carry it, right? Because our law enforcement here do, right? Across the river they don't. You know what I mean? So it's one thing to say that I'm not going to carry it. You know, like, that's almost like it's like a premeditated, like, I've put thought into this and I'm not carrying it, knowing that someone's going to die around me, and now you just contributed to it. You know what I mean? There's not a first responder that I know that would actually do that. You know what I mean? So it's like think about that for a moment. Like, if someone really saw someone overdosing and they were like, I'm not going to do anything about it. Like, you're looking at someone dying and you're just like, it's not my belief to help him. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, that's scary. The only other place I've ever seen something like that happen is like with an enemy in prison. You know what I mean? And they're in prison for a reason.
Yeah.
That's, you know what I mean? So it's just like, I just can't imagine even my worst enemy, right? Even someone who's violated me is like in that point of like death, struggling, can't breathe, and I just watch or walk away. Like I can't even imagine what that would be like.
Yeah, you can't live with that.
No, there's no way.
That'd be like playing God. Or if you had, that'd be like if you had those heart paddles, you know, that when they say clear and then whatever, then
I don't believe
like,
in
to do
heart
that,
attacks.
not do that because
Yeah.
like, oh, this guy, I think he just on purpose ate all those steaks and wrecked his heart, so now I'm just gonna let him go, you know?
Yeah.
It's just silly, but I think we all judge that way, like, well, why would they do that? Or why didn't we know that Matt's sister was still using heroin and stuff? Because most people are high functioning addicts and they hide all that. They don't want you to worry, you know, but they don't know how to go through life sober either. Right. So it's too humbling to ask for help, and suddenly it becomes a lot of work in sobriety to have to like go to these meetings and I'm going to be uncomfortable. Well, yeah, you're going to be uncomfortable, but if you're not uncomfortable, you're not getting better. So it's just difficult. It's difficult to start, you know.
Cool. So, and if you're just tuning in, this is the F5 Recovery Radio. You're joined with One Pretty Ricky, Kirsten Huvenen, and my good man, Adam Martin. We're talking, today's topic is about surprise, and about the surprises that we're finding in recovery, and just kind of our journeys in recovery as well. So, I want to thank you so much for just listening here on KRFF 95.9 LPFM. So we were just sharing a little bit about just some of the different surprises and things of almost the premeditated, I'm going to choose not to save a life. Right?
What are your surprises?
I think for me, one of the biggest things that I was kind of surprised about was just how effective recovery could be. I did. It was one of those, like, I didn't really choose to kind of know. And you know, everyone's empathetic, right? Like, I'm very grateful for, you know, my family and different ones who were very much like, yeah, no, we get it. We feel you. Like, well, we're here for you. Just let us know how we can help. And it's like, sometimes, like, I don't know how I want you to help. I've never been sober. I've never been clean. I don't know what that's like. And when I wasn't an adult, you know, like, so I don't know what that looks like. And so I think one of my biggest surprises were when I did find a community or several communities of people who were clean, who had been sober for a long time, or some who hadn't, or not even sober longer than I had been. They were just so supportive and so like, hey, we're in this together. And it wasn't just an empathy. It's like, no, we actually get it. And I think that was one of the biggest things that I needed, because I needed people who understood what I'm talking about. So instead of when I would tell these crazy stories to my friends or to my wife and just some of the things that I were doing, you know, she was like, huh. You know, I was like very much like, oh, we were together then. And I was like, oh, yeah. It's cool when I say it in treatment, but it's not cool when I say it to you. All right, I need to rethink how I'm going to do that. But it was just, I think one of the fun surprises were like, okay, I can. There's this group of people who you don't know what they look like. You know, you don't know, you can't tell, you know, who's in recovery and who's not. But you know, these group of people, I can go into these rooms and just share these stories, and they can be like, yeah, we get it, we got you, we're glad you're here. You know, like, let's have some coffee. And it was just no questions asked, and that was awesome. That was what I needed.
I think that's probably like what I like the most about, you know, did I put it right here? I did put it right here. What I like the most about recovery is that they were all a bunch of crazy people. Like, I went to church and get me wrong, I love church people. They're kind. Some, you know, and I even had one guy, David, who was like, he was like one of my favorite people. Like, he came from like a really good home, you know what I mean? Parents just absolutely loved him, you know, like he just never did anything. I mean, sure, he did things wrong, but not to like our magnitude, you know. And I remember he sat down with me and I was like hungover, and I was like at church because I'm like trying to like stay sober and stuff. And he was just like, Adam, I just want you to know that I don't judge you. And I was like, well, we're talking about it, so it's, you know what I mean? Like you're obviously thinking about it, and I appreciate that. Like, you don't have to, here's the thing about like grace and judgment. Yeah. You don't have to tell people you're being graceful to them. Right. You don't have to tell them that you're not judging them. You know what I mean? Like, I think part of it is that we've always just really struggled with like not being the token, like, person you're being graceful to, you know what I mean? And so like, bless his heart, like he was like, I view when I lie to my wife, like when you steal cars, like sin is sin. And I was like, that's amazing. You're not on Valley News Live, you know what I mean? Like, and so I appreciate it, but I think it's time to give the people a lived experience the mic. You know what I mean? Like, it's like with peer support, and maybe you've seen this like in the treatment world or whatever, like it's never really been utilized that much. It's like, it's almost like a guy gets sober and then he gets active and he starts doing some really good things. And, he's like, I want to help other people. And then treatment providers or like counselors or whatever, like, that's really great. I'm going to connect you to some of the guys that leave here. Right. And then they're like, a guy would be like, you know what? I think I want to do more. I want to like work at a treatment center. And it's just like, calm down. It's almost like we can't, it would be like a doctor, who became like a doctor, right? And then he was like, you know what, I want to teach other doctors. And then they're like, that's not how it works. Well, I have experience. I've done surgery. I've done like, I can, they're like, yeah, but you didn't go to school specifically to teach people. You know what I mean? Yep. Like, it's almost like I got felonies, they got degrees. And so, but that shift has like happened in the last probably 5 years, 6 years. And I'm telling you, if people run out of insurance or they can't get in or whatever, it's almost like it's going through this evolution of like, all right, well, you didn't get into treatment, so we're going to connect you to these guys who are like in recovery. Right. You know what I mean? So that was kind of how it started. And then now it's like, all right, Adam started this place. He's not a doctor. You know what I mean? Like and then we're going to let him be in groups. And like, we started doing that. And then I started seeing it happen in other places or whatever, because we were getting like really good, it takes a lot of responsibility off of nurses and doctors. And they're like, oh, I met Adam at treatment and now he's at the meeting, and they're like, in the past it was like, oh, we got to have boundaries and policies and, or whatever. Right. And it was like, man, you guys are just red taping the crap out of recovery. Like, I can't do anything. Right. If I see him at a meeting or something, I'm like, I got to pretend I don't know him. And they're like, well, what if they get to know you? And yeah, what if they get to know someone in recovery? Weird. Like, that was the goal. Right. Like, you want me to talk to him about it and then see him there and be like, I got to pretend I don't know you. Right. Or go to a different meeting where there's no clients at or something like that. Like, I can understand from a nurse, a social worker, a licensed addiction counselor, you know what I mean? But like for us that are like in the community actively doing those things, if we happen to also be a treatment provider, like, cool, whatever,
It's good for people to see that you're like authentic and you practice what you preach, and you don't just say you should go to meetings and then you don't. And for whatever reason, in addiction, you get hung up on that stuff. And I worked at a halfway house for 15, 17 years, something like that. And really, it wasn't something that was encouraged to even push people to like get involved in meetings and stuff, because it was everybody's choice and you have to blah, blah, blah. But truthfully, 12-step programs are the most successful long-term recovery things available right now. So I would see the same faces over and over, and I knew what was missing every time was that connection with somebody in a meeting, for long-term recovery. And of course, there's been people that have gone off and stayed, alone in their world or whatever, and stayed sober. There are those people, but for the vast majority, that connection is vital. And I think that what another surprising thing about recovery is how quickly I forget how desperate I was, because I was desperate. I couldn't stay sober. I couldn't not stay sober. I didn't know if I wanted to even live anymore. It was that dramatic. But then I'm sober for a little while, and suddenly it's like, well, I don't, I get my opinion back. I'm like, well, it wasn't that bad. Maybe I don't really want to hang out with those people.
Yeah, it's not even an opinion. It's like a judgy opinion. Yeah. It's like, you were literally dead 2 days ago, and now someone invited you to go to a meeting to just go check it out. Right. And you're like, nah, I'm good. Well, what are you going to do? It's like recovery is the only thing that I've came across where like people think you don't have to put effort into it. Right. Like, it's just I just have to just not use, and it's just like, then even after you like prove that wrong over and over again, like, you just hold on to it with dear life, that, And then you finally, even in the book, in the final analysis, right? Like F5, even 12-step programs. I wouldn't even put those two in the same, in the same bucket. But like, if there was a row of houses, and there's like the Mecca, right? The mansion. And then it just kind of gets like smaller and smaller. And then like across the street in the trailer park, there's like a single wide trailer with like dimly lit or whatever, a bunch of people hanging out outside with styrofoam cups, right, of coffee and smoking cigarettes and whatever. And then you see it and you're like, oh, that doesn't look like a good place. And then but you've tried all these other houses, and then you get there and you walk in and people are like talking to you and like hugging you and making you feel comfortable and sharing stories. Literally, that is, in my opinion, recovery. Like that final house, that it was kept broke for a reason. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'll tell you, because I'm a founder, right? I founded an organization where people are paid to do, employment navigation, housing, stuff like that, and then I've also been a part of like recovery groups, and there is a vast difference of community. But there's also a vast difference both worlds are really good. This world is really good on making sure that you get the things that you need, like social capital, family capital, like we'll help you with all that. But the community aspect isn't there. No matter how hard we try, events, community meetings, whatever, it will always have that detachment because of the financial part. You know what I mean? And so I think that was what AA did perfectly, is that they kept it broke so that it kept it about the people and not politics and religion and money and stuff like that.
So since you both are obviously have been in recovery for a while and are learning more about the treatment side and the provider side of things, are you surprised when people see the big Mecca and they go to the Mecca and they just expect all this change and different things to happen and then it doesn't work? Or are you surprised when a friend of mine who was like, oh, I tried it, but it didn't work, and then they just stopped?
Are we surprised?
Yeah. Are you surprised when people don't go all the way down the street to get to the
I'm surprised if they make it to the end of the street. Yeah, like I'm surprised if they make it to us. I'm not surprised by the results. Like if we did we do recidivism rates with prison, but we've never done them with treatment centers.
It's high.
Super high. I bet it's worse than prison.
Wow.
By probably, I would imagine probably 80%. Oh. But we don't. The difference is a different industry. They're not going to keep those stats.
Right.
No.
You know what I mean? They're not paid per person as much as like the Department of Corrections is paid on budgets, not input outputs. Right. You know what I mean? I mean, it eventually is, so that's how they get. But the money goes to bigger buildings, more beds, where in the treatment industry it goes to the top.
Yeah, and it's I think it's an illness. I'll just continue to say that, but I think that it's an illness where it tells you don't have it, and secondly, the second thing that gets most people hung up, and I almost hate when this the psychobabble comes in and gives you an out, but one of the hugest symptoms of addiction or anything like that is that's a crutch a lot of people fall on when they first get sober. Well, I have social anxiety. Well, yeah, of course you do. You have this illness, so just it's gonna be uncomfortable. I promise you that. It will be uncomfortable. You won't want to do it. You'll find 100 reasons to not do it, but your life depends on it. And when people say, oh, I tried it, I didn't like it, like, well, what did you do? Did you just show up there? Did you talk to anybody? Did you actually do the things they suggest? Because all of that is free, and if nothing else, it's just a place to meet other people that are sober, because I don't think that when you first sober up, my life was not full of anybody that was sober, and the people that, because you get sent to psychiatrists, you get sent to all of these people that really do care and really want you to be better. And I lied to every one of them because I don't know, why did I care that I disappointed a shrink that I was going to see for 2 months? I don't know, but I did. And then I go and I meet somebody like Adam, and I'm like, oh my gosh, now I want to stay sober. Now I can say everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
But so it's a different illness, and I think if we just walk away out of fear of being uncomfortable, or walk back into the stuff we know from before, and a lot of people do make it to the last house on the street and still don't walk into that one, you know? So, and I think that's where this profession, at least as an addiction counselor, it kind of becomes the redheaded stepchild of psychology, because the success rate is so minimal, you know what I mean? And it's a high burnout rate, and it's hard to watch and not take it home, and it's just, yeah, it has a huge ripple effect.
Yeah.
For sure.
There's so many things that like there's so much, like, I don't know what you'd call it. There's like so many things that affect, like if you were to like draw like a paper with all like a bunch of arrows to the different industries, to the different people, to the different, you know, pharmaceutical companies, to the different like the addict and the alcoholic, or even you could fill in the blank with, like, you know, because we criminalized it, the felon, right, are the single point of interest to probably more things than anything else, any other like illness, any other whatever. Because, like, you know, people who have a illness with like cancer or diabetes, there's no interest from the Department of Corrections, there's no interest from the courts, there's no interest from, you know, therapists, and you know what I mean. Where like people with addiction, like, name an industry, even the like the parks, right, with the people that are falling asleep or overdosing or dying, or like homeless that are, you know, falling asleep in weather like that. Like, it affects everything. And so that's why, like, when new bills or laws or, you know, new evidence-based treatment or something, you know what I mean, it's like, follow the money, right? What interest does someone have in this? And that's the beautiful thing about like grassrooted recovery, is that there is no interest. You know, even in the beginning when Bill Wilson like approached Dr. Bob, his interest wasn't Dr. Bob, right? Dr. Bob didn't even want to give him a time of day, because he was so inundated with religion and you know, co-workers and, you know, whatever, of everyone wanted to cookie cut him and make him into, you know, they probably had the same goal as him, but they had there was a reason they wanted it.
Right.
Where Bill shows up and he's just like, listen, thanks for giving me 15 minutes of your time. I'm not here for you, I'm here for me.
Right.
And then Bob was like, never heard anything like that. He's like, what do you mean you're not here for me? Right. And he's like, I got to do this if I want to stay sober. And totally took the burden off of Bob. And then they spent the next 3 hours or whatever smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee and hitting it off, and they were tied together for the rest of their lives. You know what I mean? That can't happen in a treatment center. It can't.
No, and it's the long term. Like, I think people don't see past, like, once you're done, like, gambling. Once you're done gambling, your life will be good. Once you're done using, your life will be good. But it's so much bigger than that. And because if that was the answer, then detox centers would pump out winners. You know what I mean? They'd just be like, oh, thank goodness I'm sober, now I can go. But it's not. It's like, this illness is hardwired for, like, I can't live life on life's terms. I need a crutch, and I don't know how to not need that and function. And I think that's where the community comes in. And, you know, as silly as it sounds to have like a sponsor or a mentor in life, you know, there isn't anybody that couldn't benefit from that, you know. But the idea of being told what to do, oh my gosh, we're so anti being told what to do. But I'm out of ideas. So I need at least a suggestion or something, and then I'll decide. I usually decide to try it my way first, and then I'll go back and say, okay.
Yeah, and then there's usually some like person in recovery just kind of like, how's it going? How'd that work out for you? Like, super sarcastic and, you know, feels demeaning, but like someone said it to them too. So do you gotta do a commercial or something?
Yeah.
Okay, do your thing.
So if you're just tuning in, this is the F5 Recovery Radio. This is One Pretty Ricky. I'm joined with Kirsten Huvenen and Adam Martin. We're talking about surprises in recovery. Before we do that and jump into our last segment before we get out of here, just want to thank the Drummer's Journey for underwriting the programming here on 95.9 Radio Free Fargo KRFF LP. Drummer's Journey offers percussion instruments, hardware, electronics, accessories, and more. They have full service for drummers, including repair, custom building, and lessons. You can find them located at Highway 10 and East in the Mall in Moorhead. Their hours are Monday through Thursdays, 11 to 7, Fridays and Saturdays, 11 to 5, and Sundays for Adam, noon to 5. For more info, check out drummersjourney.com.
Why'd you say for Adam?
Yeah, just in case.
In case I wanted to go there
Yeah.
on a Sunday?
Well, on Sunday.
Oh.
Yeah, that's usually when you have your most of your free time.
It's weird that you know my life, man.
Chicks dig drummers, and
Yeah,
if you're a drummer,
they
it's
do.
a felony.
Yeah,
Oh,
if I
Lord.
have, I could be a drummer, I could and not be able to drum, but because I have 5 felonies, they'd be like, he's like the Tommy Lee of Fargo.
Yeah.
I'm like, I am.
At least the girls I hang out with dig that.
Yeah.
Don't they always say the drummers are the crazy ones in bands? Isn't that a thing?
I think they're the drug addicts.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
they're
right.
they're usually
I
the.
don't know. I don't know.
It's funny because a band is the same thing as people who start up a company. You have to have the different personalities. Like in the tech company, you have this extremely smart, introverted nerd with the one engineer who has a little bit of personality, gets uncomfortable but willing to tell the story of the company. You know what I mean? They have. All in the band is the same way. Literally, a startup company is a band. And you got to be able to play together and work together. That's such a great analogy. The weird one is the bassist. The bassist is always the bass player is always the weird guy. Where it's just I've yet to meet a bass if someone's like, I'm in a band, you're like, you're a bass player.
Are you a bass player, Ricky?
No.
Oh.
No, I was the drummer.
You're the drummer?
I was the drummer.
At a church band, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
yeah. So growing up, that's immediately my mom was like, you have too much energy. That's every, I think, especially maybe probably in black churches, they're like, oh, a lot of energy here. There you go. Going to choir, it was something with instruments.
Dude, my grandma would lose her mind if there was drums in a church.
Yeah.
Because it just shouldn't be? Or she'd like it?
Maybe she'd be... Actually, I take that back. She's, way different today than she was when I was, a kid. Right. But, I spent the first chunk of my life in southern Alabama, right? Where in some places the drums is, the devil's portal. You know what I mean? Yes. We don't dance here. We don't do drugs. We don't do drink. We don't do drink. We don't drink, And now, dude, my grandma would go sit in a black church and just be like, we love Jesus. He changed her life, so it's, but early on, man, Southern Alabama, I lived on Selma Street in Dothan. You know what I mean? I was the only white kid except for Mr. Sellers, who lived in the big house on the end of the block. I'm pretty sure that this at one time, that was a plantation house. You know what I mean? And they were saying, the N-word, you know what I mean? It was but it was I can see how someone's this is so super normal. Then the internet happened and I was just oh, this is not normal. This is normal here.
Right.
And then I come to North Dakota and it was just no one, everyone was super North Dakota nice and you know what I mean? So, but I've talked to some guys. I've talked to some guys at the NAACP, that work there, that I'm friends with, that I've served on nonprofits with. And they have told me, and Ricky, you got to back me on that, or correct me if I'm wrong, not back me. They almost appreciate someone who's outspoken racist more than someone who just acts like they're not, but really are.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because at least that guy is against you. Where this guy can stab you in the back at the right moment and literally take you know what I mean? It's I never thought of that. And I was and when I first heard it, I was yeah, but this guy, he's just a big mean he's not going to do anything, where this person is got plans and premeditations and you know what I mean? And acting like they're not. Yeah. So it's just I never even, am I wrong here?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think it's one of the things where you you want to know exactly what side of the street people are on. You want to know exactly, like, okay, where do you stand on, you pick the topic, it doesn't matter whatever it is. You just, like, want to know, and the more outspoken you are, the more defined, like, okay, I'm going to either avoid that person, I'm going to know, like, you just, I don't know if it's just a training or if it's just, you know, how we grew up, you know, how my parents just kind of raised us. It was like, well, when you know people exactly for who they are, you know how to be who you need to be around them.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of change that has to happen depending on, because that person could be your boss. And so then you're like, okay, how do I navigate this job that I have to have because I have bills to pay or what, you know, whatever the situation is. Like, especially when you're in a situation where you can't just get away, you know, where it is going to be an everyday. Like if that happened, if I was out downtown and someone was just spewing off racist, like, I could choose to engage. I can choose to help educate them in a wide variety of ways, or I could just completely ignore them. So it just depends on, you know, you have the choice.
Yeah.
But, you know, if Adam was racist, it might be a little different because we have to be on this radio show. You know, like it's
that'd
a
be
little bit
weird.
Different. Yeah. We would work it out.
Here's I'll tell you what I love about Ricky is that, like, I know I'm white. You don't have to tell me I'm white. Like, oh my goodness.
Well,
like
radio, they don't see your face.
Yeah, they also,
yes,
I don't know if you guys
black.
are listening. I mean, Facebook Live knows that, you know, but here's, like, I'm never gonna fully understand. It's just like with really anything, right? Like, if I don't have experience in it, I'm never gonna understand.
Mm-hmm.
People can say they can sympathize with it, but they'll never be able to empathize what it is like to be, you know, and by no means am I putting black in any of these categories other than, you know, here it's not a majority, right? And so the majority of people in Fargo are not addicts, right? Or alcoholics or felons or a person of color or whatever. That's the only way that I'm putting these in the same areas, right? By no means do I think that they're the same. Just so I can clarify that. The reason that I appreciate having Ricky in my life is because I'm white and I don't know what it's like to be black. And he's created a safe environment for me to be able to ask him questions, you know, that I know if I asked publicly, people would probably think, you know, they would take it the wrong way, right? And so, like, you know, how do I, you know, is it weird when a guy tries to act like he's one of the guys with, you know what I mean? Like, you know, or is it okay to, like, joke about race? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, are those things okay? Like, and it really just comes down to, I think, relationship, right? Me and Ricky can joke around about, he jokes around about my, you know, white, you know, privilege, you know, and then I joke around about, you know, like, I personally, I love chicken, you know what I mean? And that's obviously stereotypical, you know, joke or whatever. And so, like, I'm not going to go out there and do that in public, but, like, Ricky and I have developed a relationship to where, like, we're not trying to hurt each other. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I've been around guys that are white and they say, it almost sounds like the same things, but they're saying it in a very demeaning and hurtful, you know what I mean? Yeah. They don't have people in their life that they really care. That, you know, and it's the same thing with addicts when you call them, you know, junkies. You know what I mean? Or, you know, orange is the new black, right? And why is it the new black? Because the majority of them have been mass incarcerated, you know, from the what was it, the 13th Amendment, where it was like, you can't have slavery anymore unless they committed a crime. Like, it's like, you know, because they knew that abolishing slavery was going to completely wreck the economy. And they're like, well, if they committed a crime, you can still do chain gangs, you can still do, and they're like, and so then black people are like, we're free, right? And then white guys showed up and they're like, you're in jail now. And so now we're not gonna put you on a plantation, but we're gonna put you in a prison, you know. And but nobody really knows that because it's like one of those things that just happened, right? You know what I mean? And now it's like starting to become like real, and they're like, holy cow, like, why is there so many black people in prison? Why in North Dakota? Why is there 5 to 8% of the population is Native American, but why is the prison 25% Native American? You know what I mean? Yeah. And like, there's so much trauma happening, you know, throughout the communities, and it's just kind of like, well, they broke the law. Yeah, that might be true, but at one time, we were locking people up for no reason, and that has collateral consequences through the generations. Yeah, it does. You know what I mean? To the point where it's like, even nonprofits today are like, yeah, we're helping, people, and then by default, their kids are going to stay out of prison. Well, I mean, we say it, like, we keep guys out of prison, we get them sober, their kids will stay out of, prison, right? And then, because that's true.
Right.
But so is the opposite. If we're putting people in prison, right? Even if it's the reason for, like, they actually are legitimately, doing crime, right? Where's the line when we go backwards, when we were putting people in prison at mass rates that may not have been committing crime? Like, when do we take fault?
Right.
Because if we can keep people out of prison, their kids out of prison by helping them, does that mean we put their kids in prison when we put them in prison?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so, yeah, we do owe a lot to Black community. We owe a lot to even white community, right? To a lot of people that we locked up because their kids got locked up because we locked up their parents.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
The biggest part is like creating an environment where you can ask questions, because a lot of times I just fall back on the stereotype or whatever and don't ask questions. And that is true of recovery too. Like, when we're using and drinking, we scare people. They don't want to come up to us and help it. You know what I mean? They kind of want to help, but they don't want us to hurt them, which is, that could be a thing. But, and then after we get sober, or when you quit gambling, nobody wants to talk about it because they don't want to trigger you or some weird thing like that. But that's just like, don't avoid it.
Right.
The accountability is so helpful. And to just have someone ask about like something you're struggling with day to day is really meaningful, even if they don't get it, you know what I mean? Necessarily get it. But to avoid it and just like act like it's not there is crazy. It just doesn't, it's just so unhelpful. But
I think that's one of the, we have a few more minutes left before we get out of here, but I think to close it, just what are some of the, just like kind of the final surprises that you've seen? And I think one of the biggest things, my best surprise was the fact that having somebody that I can talk to with no judgment, an individual person, mentor, sponsor, call it however you would like, that person, in my mind, when I first started, it was like, oh, okay, so you're going to just tell me what to do and what not to do, and make sure that, I can live my life the way it's supposed to be. And, my sponsor, became, in my mind, that's how we started the relationship. And then he very quickly clarified, no, that's not what my purpose is. But the surprising part was learning that he was supposed to be just the guy, just someone to be able to be safe and just ask a ton of questions. He was probably super annoyed with me because I just asked a lot of questions. But it was just, for me, it was just like, okay, this is just a safe place to be able to have a conversation, to be able to say, hey, I'm still new to this. I don't know what this is like. You've been doing this for a little while. Like, in this situation, this is what I did. And a lot of times it was like, this is what I did. Was that okay? And then he'd be like, sometimes he'd be like, no. Or then he would just ask more questions, and then I would eventually come to my conclusion. Like, beautiful. This sponsor is great. What are some of the surprising things, as we're closing, like, that you're just really thankful for in your own recovery that you're glad for now?
did you notice that? Oh, I should probably talk into the mic.
Yeah, there you go.
Did you notice that like Ricky was like went to his like sponsor and was just like, hey, is this okay? I can't tell you how many times I went to my sponsor and I was like, this is what I totally did, bro. And they're like, Adam, that's not okay. I'm like, okay. Like, I can't talk to people that way.
I came to you to fix it.
Yeah. I stopped on my gas pedal and really showed him. And then I found out he was handicapped. I was like, God dang it. I can't tell you how many times that's happened. They need to put it on the license plate always, not just in the rear view mirror. It's like, and then you feel bad. But anyway, what was the question? What did you say?
The final, like, kind of the final surprise that you're...
The final surprise.
Yeah.
The final...
I think... Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I'll go. There's two of them. One, it's a lot. You know that movie with the dude who was in the new Top Gun, who played Goose's son?
Mm-hmm.
Miles. He's in a movie where I think he's a boxer or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he's being interviewed, and they were like, what's something that you found out today that's not true that you thought was true, or whatever, something like that. And he was like, that is not that simple. And I think the way people interpreted it at first was like, He was, oh, what is something that people told you that you believed was true that is not, or whatever? And he was like, that it's not that simple. And I think it caught people off guard because they were like, yeah, you know, I mean, it is not that, it's tough out there, you know what I mean? He was like, no, that's the lie.
Right.
It is simple. It's super simple. Like, people tell you it's not that simple because they don't believe you in you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Well, I'm not talking about going to the moon. You know what I mean?
Right.
But even now, like, imagine computers back in the 70s to computers today. We have more power in our pockets than we had in the octagon.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. Or the, what's that thing called? The White House or the
Pentagon.
The Pentagon, the
I was
octagon.
gonna just like
Technically, it is an octagon. We'll just put. I mean, not like literally. It's a battle central. But see how I pulled that off. But
I'll give you that.
it's super simple. It's just like in our book or whatever it says. It's not easy, right? Like it's literally the most simple concept in the world. You could break it down to 3 like simple steps if you really wanted to. I can't do this anymore. I need help other people, right? Like there's a bunch of other stuff in there. But like, I think we just make it so complex and overthink things and our feelings are super intensified. But if you really break it down to the things that I have to do and like the things that I have to overcome, it is simple. There's nothing, it is, so don't let anyone tell you like that it's not simple and it's, you know, it's super simple. And then the other thing is that like, I thought when we started having some momentum with like recovery, that I've had more issues with other recovery organizations and treatment centers than I have ever with the government or law enforcement. Right? Like when we were talking earlier about the people who are blatantly racist and then the people who are like, act like your friend. When money got involved, it completely separated the partners. At one time we were all friends, we hung out, we did stuff together, then money got involved, and I can't tell you how motives and agendas and it's actually, it's kind of sad is what it is. So those are the 2 surprises that I had.
I think for myself personally, I am still surprised at how amazing my life is. Really, I have so many things to be grateful for. I would have sold myself short if you'd given me, when I first sobered up, I made a list of 5 things I wanted in life. And I can't even remember what they were, but I suppose to trap a man, to have a career, blah, you know, on and on. But the things I have today are so much bigger than what I could have ever wanted. And my ability to just, you know, forgive everyone, everything, and move forward and try and be helpful and laugh. That's the biggest thing, you know. So that's probably what surprised me the most, is how good it really is. You?
Awesome. Yeah, I think final surprise is that recovery is great. Love it. I wouldn't be able to be on this radio, obviously. I wouldn't be able to be on this radio show. Wouldn't have met Adam and been a part of F5. Wouldn't have had none of the things I would have had, because when I didn't have recovery, I almost ended it. So
Yeah. If we run over time, it's Ricky's fault.
yeah. Well, with the last 6 seconds we have, we're going to close it on that. This has been the F5 Recovery Radio. This is One Pretty Ricky, joined with my co-hosts Kirsten Hooven and Adam Martin. I want to thank, of course, our amazing radio station that we're on, KRFF 95.9 LP FM, just streaming all the way throughout Moorhead and Fargo. Feel free to tune in next week, Wednesday, 8 a.m. We're going to be talking about all sorts of new things, and we're really excited to be able to share and take it from there. So you guys have a great rest of your day, and stay safe.
Thank you, Fargo. Have a good morning.
Stay safe.
Good morning. That was really good.
Are we good? We off?
Well, I have it auto on. I don't know if it's
I
playing
think we made shit. We made sense to shit.
Yeah, that was really good. I liked it. I really enjoyed that.
What's out there?
Oh, there we go.
Oh, are we still live?
No,
Oh, okay.
I muted the microphones. I just did not attend.
Because Kirsten cussed. Oh, we're still live on Facebook.